The final blow, Immerse's empire. The battlefield was silent for a moment. Smoke and debris floated in the dark void of space, remains of the shattered Dominion fleet. The once powerful armada of the HFY Dominion was now broken, its ships reduced to burning wrecks. Only a few enemy vessels still floated, their weapons failing, their defenses crumbling. In the center of it all stood HSS Titan, the pride of the human war fleet. Its massive hull shined against the dim light of distant stars. Weapons glowed along its sides, ready to fire at a moment's notice. It was a war machine designed for dominance, and today it had proven its might. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship, Dreadlord Valthar stood with clenched fists. His red eyes burned with rage as he watched his fleet being torn apart. He had never feared an enemy before, not the reptilian Dregner, not the insectoid Charka. But the humans, they were different. They fought with precision, speed, and terrifying brutality. "This is not possible," Valthar growled, slamming his fist onto the control panel. His officers avoided his gaze. They knew what was coming. Defeat. And in the Dominion, defeat meant death. The Titan's captain, Admiral Erickson, watched from his command seat. His face was calm, but his sharp blue eyes remained locked on the Dominion flagship. The battle was over, but one final blow was needed. The enemy had to understand that humanity was not to be challenged again. "Commander, target their flagship," Erickson ordered. His weapons officer nodded. "Locked on, sir." A voice crackled through the comms. It was Valthar. "Humans, you may have won today, but you will never rule this galaxy." His voice was filled with venom, yet there was an edge of something else. Fear. Erickson leaned forward. "We do not seek to rule, but we will never be prey." Valthar snarled. He knew there was no escape. His flagship's engines were failing. Shields were gone. His last warriors had fallen. His only choice was to strike one final blow before his end. He turned to his officers. "Prepare all remaining torpedoes. Fire everything at Titan." A desperate move, the final act of defiance. The last torpedoes launched, streaking toward the Titan in a fiery arc. If they struck, they could cripple the ship. But Erickson had expected this. "Activate Aegis Protocol." A shimmering energy barrier expanded from the Titan, absorbing the incoming torpedoes. Explosions flashed across the shield, but left no damage. The Dominion's last hope had failed. The Titan's main cannon hummed with deadly energy. Erickson gave the final command. "Fire." A blinding beam shot forward. It was over in seconds. The Dominion flagship was split in half, its core igniting in a fiery explosion. The shockwave sent debris scattering in all directions. Valthar's last scream was swallowed by the fire as his ship was erased from existence. The remaining Dominion ships panicked. Their leader was dead. Their empire had fallen. They turned their ships away, fleeing into the void, hoping to escape humanity's wrath. On board the Titan, silence filled the bridge. The battle was won. The war was over. A young officer turned to Erickson. "Sir, should we pursue the survivors?" Erickson shook his head. "No. Let them run. They will tell the rest of the galaxy what happened here today." A comms officer spoke up. "Sir, incoming transmission from the High Council." Erickson sighed and straightened his uniform. The Council would demand answers. Why had humanity struck with such force? Why had they not negotiated? They would not understand. He turned to the viewport, watching as the last Dominion ships disappeared into the darkness. "The galaxy needs to learn," Erickson murmured. "Humanity does not kneel." As the Titan and the fleet turned back toward human space, a new chapter of galactic history began. The war had ended, but the age of the human empire had just begun. The rise of the human empire. The battlefield had fallen silent. Smoke and debris floated across space where the Dominion fleet once stood. The once feared HFY Dominion had been crushed, their last great warship erased from existence. Humanity had claimed victory, but victory was never the end. On board AS Titan, Admiral Erickson stood before the massive viewport, staring at the ruins of war. His crew waited for his next command. They had won, but now came the greater challenge. What would humanity do next? A comms officer broke the silence. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from multiple factions. The Galactic Council demands an explanation. The Dregner clan send their congratulations. The Xarka swarm, they have gone silent." Erickson smirked. The Xarka were afraid. Good. Another officer spoke up. "Sir, long-range scanners detect movement at the edge of the sector. Faint, but there's something there." Erickson narrowed his eyes. "Show me." The screen flickered. A shadow lurked beyond the wreckage. Not a single ship, but an entire fleet, hidden just beyond sensor range. The readings were faint, their energy signatures carefully masked. But humans were no strangers to deception. "Sir," the officer hesitated. "It's not Dominion. It's something else." A cold feeling spread through the bridge. Someone had been watching. "Open a channel," Erickson ordered. A deep voice crackled through the speakers. "Impressive, humans. You strike with power, with precision. The Dominion were weak, but we are not." The bridge crew stiffened. Who were they? The voice continued. "We have remained in the shadows, watching as your kind grows bolder. But now you are worthy of our attention." The screen flickered again, showing a colossal warship emerging from the darkness. Its design was unlike anything seen before. Sleek, ancient, powerful. Behind it, dozens more followed. The officer gulped. "Sir, this fleet is larger than ours." Erickson didn't flinch. He met the shadowy fleet with a steady gaze. "Identify yourselves." There was a pause. Then the voice responded. "We are the Eternal Empire, and this galaxy belongs to us." The transmission cut. A heavy silence filled the bridge. A new enemy had appeared. An empire stronger than the Dominion, and they had just revealed themselves. Admiral Erickson exhaled slowly. His crew looked to him, waiting for his decision. He turned toward the command panel and spoke 2 words. "Battle stations." Humanity's war had just begun. Humanity's next battle begins. The Eternal Empire's fleet loomed in the distance. Dozens, no, hundreds, of warships stood in formation, their sleek black hulls absorbing the faint starlight. They had remained hidden until now, watching, waiting, and now they had decided to make their presence known. On the HS Titan, Admiral Erickson's jaw tightened. He had seen many battles, but this was different. The Dominion had been aggressive but predictable. The Eternal Empire, they were something else. Their ships moved with unnatural coordination, as if they were one mind, one force. The bridge was silent, every officer staring at the screen. The tension in the air was thick. The comms officer gulped, waiting for orders. "Sir, what are your orders?" Erickson exhaled. There was no point in backing down. Not now. Not ever. "Scan their fleet," he ordered. "I want weapons, shields, and command structures analyzed. Find me a weakness." A few seconds passed. The officer's fingers danced over the controls. But when the results appeared, his face paled. "Sir, their technology is beyond anything we've seen. Their shields are layered with adaptive energy fields. Their weapons output far exceeds Dominion standards. And their capital ships, we don't even know what kind of power cores they use." Another officer cursed under his breath. "They're more advanced than us." Erickson folded his arms. Every empire thinks they're invincible, until they bleed. The comms crackled again. The deep, commanding voice of the Eternal Empire returned. "Human Admiral, we recognize your strength. You have crushed the Dominion like insects, but power means nothing without submission. Kneel before the Eternal Empire, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be erased." A hush fell over the bridge. The crew waited for Erickson's response. He smirked. Humanity does not kneel. The Eternal Empire's fleet began moving. Their ships surged forward, silent and deadly. Within seconds, energy signatures spiked. Weapons systems powered up. The battle was about to begin. "Sir," the tactical officer shouted, "they're locking onto us. Their fleet is moving into an attack formation." Ericsson's eyes burned with determination. "Then let's remind them why humanity is feared." He turned to his officers. "Deploy all strike squadrons, load railguns, power up energy lances, and prepare the Titan's primary cannon." The bridge flared to life with activity. Pilots scrambled into their fighters. Gun crews loaded high-impact rounds. Shields hummed as they reached full power. The Eternal Empire had come to crush humanity, but they had made a mistake. They had given humanity a reason to fight. Ericsson raised his hand. The moment had come. Fire. The first clash. Humanity versus the Eternal Empire. The battlefield erupted. From the HSS Titan, the first salvo was unleashed. Railguns roared, launching hyper-accelerated slugs toward the advancing Eternal Empire fleet. The kinetic rounds tore through space at unimaginable speeds, shattering 2 enemy frigates on impact. But the Eternal Empire didn't flinch. Their ships adjusted in perfect synchronization, as if commanded by a single mind. The enemy warships returned fire. Brilliant streaks of crimson energy beams cut through the darkness. One blast struck a human destroyer, ripping through its shields and reducing it to molten wreckage in seconds. Ericsson clenched his fists. "Damage report. The HSS Valor is gone, sir. The enemy's weapons are bypassing standard shielding." He cursed under his breath. "They adapt too quickly. We need to change tactics." He turned to his fleet commanders. "Order all ships to break formation. No more static defense. We use guerrilla tactics. Hit hard, hit fast, and retreat before they can counter." The human fleet shifted instantly. Instead of a rigid formation, they scattered, turning the battlefield into chaos. Eternal Empire ships tried to adjust, but humanity fought differently. Human corvettes weaved between enemy lines, launching EMP torpedoes. Several enemy warships flickered as their shields temporarily collapsed. A squadron of human bombers dived toward a massive enemy dreadnought, launching plasma charges at its engines. The blasts sent the behemoth spinning out of control. The Eternal Empire was powerful, but they weren't used to fighting like this. For the first time, they hesitated. "Titan strikes back." "Sir," the tactical officer shouted. "The enemy's flagship is holding position at the center of their fleet, heavily shielded but not moving." Ericsson's eyes narrowed. "They're the command hub." The Eternal Empire wasn't fighting with individual captains making decisions. Their fleet moved as one, guided by their command ship. If humanity could take it down, they could break their coordination. "Target their flagship," Ericsson ordered. "Prepare the Titan's primary cannon." The Titan's massive siege cannon began charging, its core glowing with energy. This was humanity's most devastating weapon. But the Eternal Empire wasn't blind. Their flagship responded, unleashing a wave of energy pulses. Several human ships were caught in the blast, their systems shutting down instantly. The Titan shook violently as the energy surge struck its shields. Alarms blared. "Shields at 50%, the officer reported. "Sir, if we take another direct hit." "Hold steady," Ericsson said firmly. "We fire in 10 seconds." The enemy flagship charged another pulse, but it was too late. Fire. The Titan's siege cannon discharge, a beam of energy, hotter than the core of a star, tore through space. It struck the enemy flagship dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, an explosion. The Eternal Empire's flagship shattered apart, consumed by its own burning core. The fleet's perfect synchronization collapsed. Their ships faltered. Their movements became slower, uncertain. And that's when humanity struck the final blow. "All ships, a take," Ericsson roared. The human fleet unleashed hell. Railguns, torpedoes, and energy lances ripped through the disoriented enemy vessels. One by one, Eternal Empire ships exploded, breaking apart. The once invincible fleet of the Eternal Empire was in full retreat. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced a superior enemy, and won. A warning to the galaxy. As the last enemy ship fled, a transmission came through. The deep, ominous voice of the Eternal Empire returned. You have won this battle, humans, but you do not understand what you have awakened. We will return, and when we do, there will be no mercy. The transmission ended. Erickson exhaled, watching the battlefield littered with wreckage. He turned to his officers. Let them come. Because now, the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity was no longer the hunted. They were the apex predators. The Eternal Empire's revenge. Shadows on the horizon. The battlefield was quiet now. The wreckage of countless ships drifted through the void, remnants of the Eternal Empire's first defeat. The human fleet had held the line, shattering an enemy that was supposed to be invincible. But Admiral Erickson knew this war was far from over. On board the HS Titan, his officers were still at their stations, scanning, watching. They had won a battle, but in war, there was always another fight. The comms officer turned, face pale. Sir, long-range scanners have detected something unusual. Erickson frowned. Define unusual. The officer hesitated. A distortion in space, beyond the debris field. It's not a ship, but it's moving. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Eternal Empire had already surprised them once. Was this another trick? Put it on screen, Erickson ordered. The holographic display flickered. At first, it looked like empty space. Then, a ripple. Something was emerging. The moment it fully appeared, alarms blared across the Titan. What is he A8? An officer shouted. A monstrous structure hovered in the distance, unlike anything the human fleet had ever seen. It wasn't a warship. It wasn't a station. It was something else. A cold voice echoed across the comms. Foolish humans, you thought this was over. It was them, the Eternal Empire. But this time, something felt different. The object pulsed with dark energy. Then, the stars around it disappeared. A massive gravitational field was expanding outward, bending space itself. Human ships near the anomaly began drifting, pulled toward the unseen force. Sir, we're losing control of our fleet. Erickson's hands tightened on the console. This wasn't just a weapon. This was a declaration. A chilling realization settled over the bridge. The Eternal Empire had been holding back. This was their true power. And now, humanity would face their revenge. Erickson took a deep breath, steeling himself. The war had just begun. The superweapon awakens, humanity's desperate counterattack. The void trembled. The Eternal Empire's superweapon pulsed with an eerie energy, bending the fabric of space around it. The gravitational field grew stronger, dragging the wreckage of destroyed ships, and even active human warships, toward its abyss. On the HS Titan, alarms blared across the bridge. Sir, our ships are being pulled in. Admiral Erickson gritted his teeth. The Eternal Empire hadn't just come for revenge. They had come to end humanity once and for all. The deep voice of the enemy commander echoed through the comms once more. You cannot win. This is not a battle. This is your extinction. The crew of the Titan braced as their ship trembled under the intense gravitational pull. The readings on the monitors made no sense. It was as if space itself was collapsing. An officer turned to Erickson. Sir, if we don't act now, our entire fleet will be torn apart. There was no time left. Erickson's mind raced. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a trap. The Eternal Empire had let them win the first battle, to lure humanity into their true battlefield. But if the Eternal Empire thought humanity would simply surrender, they had miscalculated. "Bring up the fleet's remaining firepower," Erickson ordered. "We need to disable that superweapon." "No." The tactical officer shook his head. "Sir, direct attacks won't work. It's absorbing all kinetic energy. Even our siege cannons will be useless." Erickson exhaled. Then they had to get creative. He turned to his chief engineer. "That gravitational field, what's fueling it?" The engineer's eyes widened as she realized what Erickson was asking. "Sir, it's drawing power from an artificial singularity, a miniature black hole at its core." Erickson's mind clicked into place. That was their way in. If we destabilize the singularity, the whole structure collapses. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. "Sir, you're talking about a controlled detonation of a black hole." A moment of silence. Then Erickson smirked. "That's exactly what I'm talking about." The plan. A high-risk maneuver. The Titan's engines roared as it maneuvered against the pull of the super weapons field. "Deploy all stealth drones," Erickson commanded. "We need eyes on that singularity core." Dozens of small, cloaked drones shot toward the enemy structure, slipping past the gravitational distortions. Their mission: find a weak point. The Eternal Empire ships noticed, but too late. The drones transmitted live data straight to the Titan. The engineer's eyes lit up. "Sir, there's an instability in the singularity's containment field. If we overload it with enough energy, it'll collapse." Erickson nodded. "How much energy?" She hesitated. "More than any single warship has. But if we sacrifice multiple reactors at once, we might have a chance." Erickson's face darkened. That meant ships wouldn't be coming back. He turned to his fleet, his people, his warriors. They had fought too hard to fall now. The ultimate sacrifice. Erickson opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is Admiral Erickson. We are facing a weapon beyond anything in known history. If we do not stop it here, humanity will not survive." His voice was steady, commanding, final. "I will not order any of you to make this sacrifice. But if you are willing to give humanity a future, follow my lead." Silence. Then one voice crackled through the comms. "Hayes Valiant, standing by." Another. "Hayes Fury, locked on target." More voices joined in, warriors choosing to give everything. Erickson swallowed hard. "Then let's end this." The last strike. The brave warships moved into position, charging their reactors beyond safe limits. They would detonate their cores at the singularity's weakest point. The Eternal Empire finally realized the plan. Their fleet surged forward in a desperate attempt to stop them. But it was too late. The human fleet unleashed one final attack. The reactors detonated. A blinding flash. Then, silence. The gravitational field collapsed in on itself. The Eternal Empire's superweapon imploded, consumed by its own singularity. Their fleet vanished. The battlefield was still. The void, empty. The Eternal Empire's greatest weapon had been destroyed. On board the Titan, Erickson watched, his heart heavy. Good men and women had been lost today, but they had saved billions. The comms crackled. The deep voice returned, weak, fading. "This is not over." Then, nothing. Erickson exhaled. "No, but it's over for today." Humanity had won. Again. But they all knew the Eternal Empire would return. The war is far from over. Humanity's next move. The battlefield was eerily silent. The Eternal Empire's superweapon had been destroyed, consumed by the very force it sought to control. The once mighty enemy fleet had vanished into the abyss, torn apart by the collapse of their own gravitational field. But Admiral Erickson did not celebrate. The cost of victory weighed heavy. So many had been lost. Ships that had once flown proudly in humanity's fleet were now nothing but wreckage drifting in the void. Brave men and women had sacrificed everything to stop this threat. On the HS Titan's bridge, the crew sat in stunned silence, watching the aftermath. The once chaotic battlefield was now still, the enemy's presence erased. A communications officer turned to Erickson, his voice subdued. "Sir, we're getting reports from the fleet. Survivors are being recovered, but we lost 30% of our forces." Erickson exhaled slowly. Victory had come at a steep price. "Begin recovery operations," he ordered. "Rescue every survivor. Salvage what we can." The officer nodded and relayed the commands. As the crew moved to action, Erickson stared into the vastness of space. Was it truly over? He didn't think so. A warning from the shadows. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're picking up a faint energy signature." Erickson stiffened. "Not again." "Show me." The screen flickered, displaying a single enemy vessel, damaged but still operational. Unlike the warships they had fought, this one was different, sleeker, almost spectral in design. Then, without warning, a transmission came through. A familiar deep voice, weaker now, yet filled with cold certainty. "You believe this was a victory. It was merely a test." Erickson's jaw tightened. The Eternal Empire still lived. The voice continued. "You have proven yourselves. Interesting, but you remain insignificant in the grand design." Erickson's grip on the console tightened. "Is that so?" he said, voice calm but deadly. The enemy commander chuckled. "Yes. And next time, we will not hold back." With that, the enemy vessel faded from sensors, disappearing into the darkness. The bridge fell silent once more. Erickson turned to his crew, his voice steady. "Send a message to High Command. The war isn't over. Humanity needs to prepare." A young officer hesitated before speaking. "Sir, what if we can't win the next battle?" Erickson glanced at the wreckage outside. Then, with a small smirk, he answered, "Then we'll make sure they regret starting it." The crew straightened, determined, ready. Humanity had survived the first wave. But the real war was coming. And this time, it wouldn't be just about survival. It would be about domination.